Hey there, Chemical Operations Manager Casey Henderson, back again to discuss grassy weeds. Now, there are three types of grassy weeds that we're going to come across in these cool season lawns that we work on. The first and most common are going to be annual grasses. These are going to be your barnyard grass, your crabgrass, goose grass, uh, foxtail, things like that. These are thick-stemmed, tall grasses. They're going to sprout each year from seed. They typically pop up in thin areas of the lawn, near sidewalks, bed edges, anywhere that the turf is weak. Excuse me. They are best controlled through early season pre-emergent applications. Uh, we put down prodiamine with our first application of the year to help prevent those grasses. It builds a barrier in the soil that will stop the seeds from coming up and sprouting. Once they are up, they are a little bit difficult to control, but we can catch them early with a second round dose of dimension or products containing quinclorac or triclopyr. This first picture shows you crabgrass in a regular turf grass lawn. You can see how easy it is to identify the crabgrass due to its wide blades and its prostrate nature. This next picture shows you crabgrass in clump form. You can see how it grows in these big balls. You'll notice that the center of the crabgrass has a purplish color to it in the crown of the stem. This is one way that we can identify crabgrass for what it is. Uh, at this stage, the crabgrass is probably going to be untreatable, although some chemicals such as triclopyr will help to kill some of that out. Not going to have 100% results from that though. This next slide shows you a picture of barnyard grass. You can see it's more of an upright grass, more so than crabgrass is. Uh, it's a very tall, very thick-stemmed, very wide-bladed grass. Also very hard to control once it's at this stage, although pre-emergence and early cases of uh, post-emergence with dimension or triclopyr will kill out barnyard grass. Once it's in this stage, the best way to get rid of it is to pull it up by the root ball or to spray it out with a defoliant such as Roundup. The next weed we're going to talk about are sedges. These are not actually grasses, but look similar in appearance to grasses. They are actually tubers and grow nutlets underneath the ground, similar to uh, daylilies and hostas, things like that. Uh, those tubers are the way that the nut sedge spreads along with the seed heads. What you're going to notice about sedges are that while they look like grasses, once you look closer, you'll notice the triangular stems. Uh, they're very thick and rigid. The coloration is going to be much different. It's not going to change with nitrogen intake. The color is going to be very vibrant compared to the darker green of the turf grass around it. You'll see in this next picture a case of yellow nut sedge growing in a turf type tall fescue lawn. You're going to see how much taller the nut sedge is than the turf type tall fescue grass. That's because the nut sedge grows about 3 to 4 times faster than the turf grass around it, meaning that once the homeowner cuts the lawn, a few days later, they're going to see these bright green blades popping up. That's going to be a clear indication of nut sedge. In the next picture, we'll take a look at the seed head and leaf structure of yellow nut sedge. You'll notice the trifold leaf pattern that leads into the triangular stem. Also, the large multi-stem seed heads that append from the top. You'll notice that this plant is a little over 7 inches tall. Nut sedge will grow between 12 and 18 inches tall, I believe, uh, at full height, meaning it will stick out very predominantly over a manicured lawn. Um, Again, it grows much faster than the turf around it, so those stems will stick out, making treatment a little easier. Makes the the nut sedge easier to spot when we're going out to treat it with a backpack sprayer, meaning we can target it very easily with those chemicals. Another common sedge that we find here in Indiana is going to be broom sedge. It's going to grow in a little bit different area than the nut sedge. Broom sedge likes much warmer, uh, drier environments, gravel parking lot edges, sometimes in dry embankments. Uh, it also will grow through cracks in parking lots, uh, whereas you're going to find the yellow nut sedge in low-lying, very wet areas of a lawn. You're also going to notice the broom sedge grows in a much denser clump, much thicker stems, and you're going to see in the following picture that the seed head is much different. You're going to notice in this next picture just how different the seeds for broom sedge are from yellow nut sedge. They're very fuzzy, flighty seeds. They do what's called parachuting. The wind picks them up and carries them long distances, whereas in the yellow nut sedge, the seeds are carried or trafficked by sticking to the fur of animals or passing creatures that are going to carry them to another spot and deposit them. Birds also will pick those up and use them for nesting material and drop them on their flight. Uh, Now we'll take a look at some of the chemicals that are used to treat sedges. We have halosulfurons and sulfentrazones. Both of those are sulfur-based products, obviously by the name. They do a great job of controlling sedges. You can see by the name of one of the products, Sedgehammer. It is specifically designed for treatment of sedges. These are going to go down at low rates in targeted applications. They're pricey. It's not something that you want to try and put over a broad area or use as a blanket application. These are targeted applications, probably put down with a hand can or a backpack sprayer. Uh, they do a very good job and are turf safe to a point. Once you exceed uh, the recommended application rates, you could see some turf damage, but otherwise, these are perfectly safe to use over our cool season grasses here in the Midwest area. The third and last type of grassy weeds that we're going to talk about are not necessarily considered weeds in some parts of the country. They are considered turf grasses. They're going to be southern grasses. They're native to the southern climates of the United States where we have much warmer weather. Uh, we typically see these pop up in patches in our cool season lawns. Some homeowners have decided to use these as a basis for their turf mixed in with other cool season grasses. One huge difference between these southern grasses and our cool season grasses is the dormancy. When southern grasses go dormant, they brown out completely. They remain that way for extended periods of time until the temperatures come up enough that they can go back into their their functioning. Uh, when they do brown out, it becomes very obvious in a lawn. That is why they are typically considered a weed here in our cool season lawns. These grasses can be introduced into a lawn by a bird picking them out of another lawn and carrying it over and dropping a piece. They will take root that way. They can be spread by a commercial mow company, having a piece under the deck and it jarring loose on your lawn. Uh, these grasses are not easy to control, but there are products that will uh, kill these grasses out in a cool season lawn, oftentimes without harming the cool season grasses. In other cases where they're prolific, they either have to be dug out or sprayed out with glyphosate or another defoliant. The first one we're going to take a look at, we'll show you some zoysia grass. You'll notice that it grows very low to the ground, very clumpy. It's very thick and dense. This grass is very traffic tolerant. It's definitely not one that you're going to see traffic stress on through general walking or the mailman's not going to leave a track in your yard. Um, it's going to handle mower stress really well. Unfortunately, it does do that browning out in the wintertime. typically about the first time we see frost, and it doesn't come back until about mid-April uh, to really start greening up and growing again, which leaves brown patches in your lawn that are just there, and they last. You'll see in this next slide that just like in our fescue grasses here in cool season areas, there are several types of zoysia grass, different species or subspecies of zoysia grass. You have Marvel and Xeon that are going to have a very thin blade similar to fine fescue. You have El Toro that has a medium width blade. And then you have the Meyer grass, which is very, very dense and thick, very wide bladed, almost grows like a carpet. Uh, all of these are different subspecies of the Zoysia species. Uh, it's very good to know these different subspecies in order to diagnose a patch of zoysia in a lawn and to get the treatment right for that. Next, we'll look at centipede grass. You'll notice in the picture coming up, the centipede grass, just like the Meyer zoysia, is a very wide blade. It's a very dense, thick, low-growing grass. I believe it tops out around 4 inches. Most people mow it in the 2 to 3 inch range. Again, it is going to be a southern grass. It is going to brown out with frost. Uh, it does take specialized treatment to get rid of this in a cool season lawn. It spreads very prolifically and very fast. It is a rhizonomous grass that will reach out from one area to another and can also be spread through plugs. A typical core aeration that passes over a piece of centipede grass can pick that plug up and move it to another area and create another patch that is going to keep spreading and keep dominating a lawn. These grasses grow very thick and they will choke out a cool season lawn very quickly. It's very difficult for the cool season lawns to compete with this grass because of the dense carpet-like nature. Here we'll take a look at two different varieties of centipede grass. You'll notice one has a very narrow blade, another has a very wide blade. You can see both of these are rhizonomous. Uh, these rhizomes are how the grass spreads and continues its growth. You can see it grows very short blades, very low to the ground. Again, these grow very thick like a carpet. At times, a dull mower blade won't even be able to keep up. Uh, these rhizomes grow very fast, so centipede can take over a lawn in a very short period of time, especially if it's being fertilized. Uh, Again, it does take a specialized treatment to rid a cool season lawn of centipede grass, but you can see these rhizomes and just how dense the blades are. You can imagine these things overlapping in a lawn and how thick the carpet and the thatch area would be. The last southern grass that we're going to talk about, also another common find here in cool season lawns in the Midwest area, is Bermuda grass. Uh, you can see by the picture that you're going to see next, it also grows very thick, very very dense carpet. Um, this grass is not quite as tolerant to some of the conditions that we have here in Indiana and the Midwest area, but it does pop up in lawns and it will take over. Uh, you also see in the next picture just how thick and dense the thatch area is. Bermuda grass is similar to a bent grass. The bottom half of the sheath will lay over in a very dense, thick thatch, and then the leaflets will pop up from that. They're a little more delicate than the bottom part of the sheath. Uh, I want you to pay special attention to just how thick that thatch layer is, and imagine how quickly it could choke out a cool season lawn. This last slide we're going to look at might test your powers of observation. Right up front, you're going to see a lawn that's looking like it's gone dormant. That's because it has. But if you look to the top of the picture into the background, you'll see that the neighboring lawns are still very green. There's a distinct line where this lawn ends and the neighbor's lawn begins. That's because this lawn has been sodded with a blended cool season and southern season turf. That turf has probably seen some cold temperatures or some frost, and unlike the cool season grasses that are used to this kind of weather, it has gone dormant. Uh, this lawn will not green up until the middle of spring when soil temperatures reach 55 to 60 degrees and the plant comes out of dormancy.